Hi, everyone. Marjorie Heinrich here, owner of Heinrich Law. I am a warrior for my severely injured clients. I want to talk with you for just a moment about Roy Jackson. Mr. Jackson was severely injured in a car-related accident that resulted in a $2.5 million settlement. Mr. Jackson was a sewer maintenance worker for the City of Pacifica, a job he held for decades. He loved his job. It was his total identity. Roy's working in an intersection one day when a car drives into the intersection and hits him. He flies up onto the hood and onto the ground. He comes to me in severe pain. He says he needs help. He's been hit by a car. He says, the next thing I know, my shoulder is hurting. My hips are killing me and my back is in pain. And he says, I can't work. So what was the challenge? The first issue I had to address is how am I going to prove all these injuries? Because you see, Mr. Jackson didn't suffer the typical injuries we see in cases like this. He didn't have any broken bones. He didn't have a traumatic brain injury. There were no specific herniations or bulges in his back, but yet he couldn't work. He had lost his livelihood and his identity. I knew I needed to be his warrior, and I knew I was going to have a fight on my hands. So how did we win? The first thing I had to do was I had to file a lawsuit. And immediately after doing that, what do I learn? Defense counsel tells me they're blaming my client for the incident. They said, no, it's all Mr. Jackson's fault. He didn't have proper cones out. He wasn't wearing the proper yellow reflective jacket. And the next thing they said is, no, he could not have been seriously injured by this event. So what did I do? The first thing I did is I hired the best orthopedic surgeon in San Francisco. And this expert examined my client and addressed his pre-existing asymptomatic degenerative arthritic changes that had been completely dormant and fine until he was hit by this car. And this expert witness talked about how an event like this can disable a man like Roy Jackson, who's in his 60s, but feeling great and working full time. The next thing I did is I had to take a number of depositions of Mr. Jackson's coworkers, his supervisor, to prove that he had been working full time with no limitations. And perhaps most importantly, I had to videotape the deposition of this adverse driver. And after several hours of examining this car driver, she finally admitted that she had been distracted when she entered this intersection because of her children in the back seat. It was gold. And I knew and believed in my heart I could get full justice for my client. A jury trial date was looming, and I knew I had him. I knew what the value of this case was. So we started to enter into really tough negotiations. The first offer that was made was $350,000, one of those classic lowball offers that you immediately say no to. I said, we're ready for trial. Let's go. The next offer was $500,000, and I knew that was not fair. And I said the same thing. No, we've got a trial looming, and Heinrich Law is ready to go, and so is my client. We received an offer of $1 million, the same response, $1.5 million. We received a $2 million offer, and I told Mr. Jackson to reject it. I'll never forget, he was pretty freaked out, I have to say. He was like, are you sure? And I said, you just have to trust me. I know what the value of this case is, and I can get you more. And God love him, he did, because I finally got the defense up to $2.5 million. That was the right number for this case, for his injuries and damages. We settled the case. We avoided a trial. The best part of all was handing Mr. Jackson his 7-figure settlement check. He started to cry. It was that relief of the 2.5 years of litigation and battling and trusting me. And now he knew he had that financial security that he so desperately needed. So if you know somebody who's been severely injured due to the fault of another, have them call me. Let's figure out if I can help them and be their warrior. Marjorie Heinrich, owner of Heinrich Law.